Hello, I'm Roger Bonds at physiciancareeradvisor.com. Thank you for taking time to learn more about how you can take the next step in your medical career. When I'm reviewing contracts for my physician clients, whether for employment or partnership, I have a long checklist of everything we're looking for. This comes from years of the hard knocks of looking over these contracts to see if they're properly written, either from the employer's viewpoint or from the employee, that is the individual physician's viewpoint. I always start with my 4 B's: base pay, bonus, benefits, and buy-in. There's so much to each of these topics. So thinking chronologically, let's start looking at bonuses. Your first bonus might be a sign-on bonus when you finalize a new contract. Now, this is not offered to all physicians, but depending on your specialty and how hard they have to recruit, you might get this offered, or you might ask for it, but don't be too greedy. If you already have a great offer, you can turn off the employer by asking for more and more. I was working with a radiologist and he kept asking for too much, and I told him so. In the radiology group, they ended up hiring someone else, even though they told him he had the job. That was too bad, because that was his ideal position in his wife's hometown, a small town. There are no more jobs for radiologists there. Now, when you get a sign-on bonus, we usually receive 5 to 10% of the base pay, but maybe more. So for a $300,000 base, you normally get $15,000 to $30,000. You might get that all upon signing, or they might spread that out on a monthly basis until you begin work. That's called a monthly stipend. But as a matter of fact, this afternoon, I have to say I was thrilled, about 2 hours ago, we asked for a signing bonus as well as a monthly stipend, because this fellow, graduating fellow next year, it was signing a year out, and she did get both. That's unusual, but 2 hours ago, I was on cloud 9 and she sure was. Or they might pay it a different way. Maybe they'll pay you half of the money when you sign and half the money when you actually start the position. So there are different scenarios out there. But be careful and find out if the signing bonus is supposed to cover anything else, such as your relocation. Some groups can be pretty sneaky that way, but they mean well. You can also ask for money for loan forgiveness for your medical school loans if you still owe anything, whether you're just coming out of training or have been out for some years. By the way, if you're taking more than 7 or 8 years to pay off your school loans, then you're taking advantage of the system and abusing yourself and your credit with this old bad debt on the books. More on that in another video. If they are a well-managed practice or hospital employer, they are probably going to give you any initial bonuses with a clawback clause. That is, if you don't stay at least for a certain period of time, you have to pay back all or part of that money. That's to motivate you to stay, so they can try to at least break even on investing in you. Several times a year, I teach a week-long seminar on how to contract, compensate, and employ physicians. That's for the employer side of the market. We were in Miami Beach recently, and it was after class, and I was just about to step into the sand of Miami Beach with a number of the attendees, and my cell phone rang. It was a specialist on the Upper East Coast who I helped negotiate his contract 2 years before. He said he couldn't take it any longer at that hospital because they had poor quality control, poor equipment, poorly trained personnel. I remembered him well and his contract with that large multi-hospital system. We worked hard to make sure he had a great contract, but it did say that if he left earlier than 3 years, then he had to pay back a lot of that money. You see, we finalized his contract with $330,000 in various bonuses and subsidies. That was his $30,000 sign-on bonus, $150,000 for his student loans, $80,000 for the down payment on his new home, and $70,000 to subsidize his income and a private practice after the first year, just like he wanted. So that afternoon, as I chatted with him, as I stood there actually under a palm tree on the beach, we talked this through, and guess what he decided? He decided he would stay rather than pay back a huge portion of that money. So my point is, just because we're successful at getting you the big bucks, they aren't going to just hand it to you with no requirements. It's good business on their part, and I often work for the employers and write contracts the same way. Also, don't be surprised if the employer or partner wants you to sign separate paperwork agreements for each type of bonus. You may be required to sign loan papers since they are actually loaning you the money and then forgiving it over time. usually over a 3 to 5 year period. Good documentation is actually a sign of a well-run practice or hospital. If you want to know more, please below click like for this video and also click subscribe as well. Go to physiciancareeradvisor.com and get my free newsletter. Find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. Invite me to speak at your next national conference or grand rounds. My email is rbonds@physiciancareeradvisor.com or call my office at 770-649-7150. My extension is 203. You have a tremendous future ahead of you. I'll see you next time.